welcome to Murray Out of Office. I'm Natalie, and this channel is a documentary style following myself and my husband on our year-long career break that we just embarked on this summer. In this video, what I'm going to focus on is just sharing a little bit about what my experience has been like the first month of our career break. So I will focus on where we stayed and what my goals were for the first month of the break. I also want to talk a little bit about what day-to-day life is like. How do we get around? What's it like to go grocery shopping? What do I get up to? We started our first month in Germany, so I'll share a few places that we visited in case you're interested. Maybe you're planning a future visit and you'd like to add something to your list. And then finally, I'll share a little bit of our cost breakdown. Exactly what did it cost for us to stay in Germany for 1 month? So let's get to it. Now, I know I've explained this in other videos, but our main reason for starting out in Germany was to go to the Euros. My husband's a big Scotland fan, so we knew last year that we were going to be in Germany. And the big question is, where exactly were we going to base ourselves? So based on the locations that Scotland drew, we decided to base ourselves around the Stuttgart area, and that's so that he could easily get to games that were in Munich and Cologne and not have to go too far. So when we started looking around the Stuttgart area, we were originally just looking to book for a couple weeks, at least for the first 3 games, but when we started to look at the cost and what it costs to stay for 2 weeks versus booking for a month on some place like Airbnb and getting that monthly discount, that became very attractive to us. So where we ended up staying was in a town called Wilderstadt that is outside of Stuttgart. And why did we pick Wilderstadt? Mostly because there was a nice apartment flat, nice attic flat that had what we thought were going to be some really nice views. It was on the S-Bahn, on the S6 line, to easily get in and out of Stuttgart. It was about a 40-minute train ride, but that was fine with us. Wilderstadt is a pretty small town. It's about 20,000 people is the population, and that was also something that really interested us. We have been staying in the greater Phoenix and Scottsdale area for the past 10 years with 1.5 million people, so we wanted to experience a little bit more of the smaller town life to see if that is something that we find attractive. So we'll talk a little bit about how we found the town. But generally speaking, the first day that we arrived, we'd been traveling for more than 24 hours. We were pretty exhausted, lugging the suitcases around. Our Google Maps was a little bit backwards. It kept telling us to go here and go there, and we were quite exhausted, to be honest. We pulled off on the sidewalk, and on that very first day, a really nice man just stopped, local man, asked where we were trying to go. And I knew we needed to get up to the hill where our Airbnb was. We just weren't quite sure how to get there. So he was incredibly friendly. He wanted to know immediately, what we were doing in the area. We talked a little bit about the football. And one thing I'll say is all the locals were quite surprised that we decided to base ourselves there for a month for the Euros, because I guess it's not that close to Stuttgart, but we found it to be a really nice experience. So that man ended up walking us through town. He pointed out one of the fun things about Wilderstadt, which is there are storks that reside on a tower. So that was a pretty cool thing that we got to see on the first day, and we definitely made a point of going to that tower most of the days that we were there just to see if we can spot the mommy and the baby storks, but he ended up walking us up the hill right to our Airbnb, so right off the bat had a really good feeling to it. He did say that maybe some of the locals might not be as friendly or approachable, but generally speaking, we had no problems. So that was a really nice start to Wilderstadt. When we got to the flat, it did deliver on the views. So it was at the top of a house, a nice attic flat. There was a whole wall of windows, and it just had the most amazing view. So whether it was in the morning, opening up the doors, letting all the fresh air in, and sitting on the balcony to have a tea or a coffee is a really relaxing way to start the day. I also really like to sit out there and watch the sunsets, just some really beautiful sunsets. It's generally a quiet town. It has this towering church, and you can hear the church bells going off, and it's kind of, misty there in the evenings with the sun setting. Occasionally you can kind of hear the train pulling in the distance, but a very nice, quiet town. A lot of what we did when we were in Weilerstadt is just walking around, quite frankly. Our favorite place to go to was the town square, the town center. It just has this amazing building right in the forefront. I guess it would be their Rathaus or their courthouse. I should probably look up exactly what the building was, but this green building with green shutters and red flowers, and just kind of the epitome of what you envision when you think of Germany, especially as a foreigner. And right in the square, there was a nice little kind of bar set up that ended up being one of our favorite places to frequent, whether it was to have, maybe a tea or a coffee or even some drinks later on in the evening. If you're in town, we definitely recommend that you stop by. I do think it's seasonal. I know that they're open definitely during the summer, and I believe they also set up during the winter markets. So if you find yourself in Weilerstadt, head to the town center and check it out. There's also loads of walks nearby, and I think that's probably something that you can say for a lot of the smaller German towns. It's very accessible, connected by nice bike paths, I guess, walking paths that you can get from town to town. Coming from the US, that is a bit of a novel concept, especially where we've been staying in the Phoenix and Scottsdale area, because everything is just so built up. You're just walking through neighborhoods or on pavements or along busy streets. So just the idea that you can walk 5 minutes away from the house and be up in the hills on a farm, or you can be walking from one town to another was really nice and just really relaxing. I think it was a really good thing for me to start off in a place like that wasn't too hectic, wasn't too busy. So highly recommend that. Overall, really happy with where we decided to stay. I think it was a good base. We do kind of tease that around the third week or so, we kind of felt like we played the whole game, that we visited all of the shops, that we did all of the walks, and that maybe there wasn't that much more to do. There was, really easy transport links in and out of Stuttgart, but you do have to plan for that 40 minutes to get in and out. So that's something else to kind of keep in mind, that all of that adds up whenever you're going to and from any place. So I would not hesitate to recommend Weilerstadt, but I'm not quite sure that we will find ourselves back there anytime soon. It was a good base for us, and we just look forward to seeing what else Germany has to offer in the future. So the other thing I wanted to focus on is really what were my goals? Did I have any goals for that first month of my career break? And it may be a little bit disappointing, but quite frankly, my answer is no. I did not set out any big tasks that I felt like I needed to accomplish. I didn't have any big to-dos. It doesn't mean that I sat around and did nothing for a month, but for me, I felt that it was really important not to overplan, not to commit myself to something. Even YouTube. I was shooting film, or my husband had the drone up, but I wanted to be really intentional about not just diving right into it, not having to feel like I'm just going into another job where I have to record, or I have to edit, or I have to get something out there. And so that first month for me was really just about resetting, relaxing, and slowing down. Really coming to to the reality that I don't have to be anywhere. I don't actually have to do anything. And I think as an adult who has grown up with always having a job, always having activities, always having to be someplace, always having to do something for somebody else, that's a really hard mindset to break out of. For my husband, I think it's a little bit different because he left the corporate world a few years ago. So he's been working on his own. And so we would be out for our walks, for example, and he would be like, walking a little fast. It's okay to slow down. And so he had to give me a few little gentle nudges just to get me to physically start to slow down. And I did slow down. Quite frankly, I slowed down so much to the point that I got sick my first month that I was abroad, and that's not really a surprise. I do kind of have this, I don't want to say habit, that's not the right word. I have a history of when I have vacation, usually towards the end of the year, around Christmas or New Year's, I get sick. And, my husband thinks it's because it's the first time that I'm actually slowing down, and it kind of lowers your stress levels to the point that other things can come and attack you and make you a little bit sick. And that was definitely my experience in Germany. So hopefully I got my rest. Hopefully I got that illness out of the way and there won't be any other surprises. But if you do find yourself in a position where you are taking time away, taking a sabbatical, taking a break, making a transition, if you can, I do recommend kind of doing nothing and just slowing down and resting for that first month. I needed about the first 4 to 6 weeks to really just breathe and slow down and let it sink in that I don't have to go back to the office. I think that's the other thing is the first month kind of just felt like vacation for me, and it didn't really feel real. That heaviness that you feel when you have to go back to work, or when you have a big deadline coming, or when you have a big deliverable due. It really took that first 4 to 6 weeks for me for that heaviness to lift. So that's just something that you could and should be mindful of as well. So what does day-to-day life look like when you are starting your career break in Germany? I talked a little bit about the transportation. That was a decision that we had to make while we were planning, which is how are we going to get around? And we knew almost right off the bat that we wanted to take advantage of the good train systems that they have in Germany. Again, coming from the perspective of being based in the US, that is such a novelty to us. I know there was some grumbles from some Germans that I met along the way. The trains really aren't that good. They're not on time. They're not running efficiently, but it's still just such a treat and a novelty that was really our main way that we wanted to get around for our month in Germany. I had originally looked at what it would cost to rent a car for a month just out of curiosity, and what I was finding is it was going to be, I'm going to say, around $1,000 US, which is quite a bit of money. I know when my brother-in-law was over for the Euros, he's based in Scotland, so he kind of came in and came out. He rented a car for a few days, so it's just a few days. I think it's fine, but it definitely adds up over the period of a month. And then you also have the stress of driving in another country, which I think for the most part is probably okay in Germany, except for when you probably get into some of the bigger cities. So what we decided to do was to really focus on the trains, and we took advantage of the Deutschland train ticket. So that is 49 euros a month. I hope I'm saying that right. I can't remember if it's 49 euros or $49, but they're pretty similar in terms of currency at the moment. So we're just going to say 49 euros for a month. And that seemed like a pretty good deal to us, especially knowing that we were going to be using that as our main form of transport. So the Deutschland ticket is good on some, but not all transportation types. The big thing for us was having access to the S-Bahn to get in and out of Stuttgart, access to the buses, which we didn't actually end up using all that much. I think I rode a bus once the whole month, but it's an option that's included as part of the Deutschland ticket. You also get access to most regional train lines, and I am not the expert. I've watched many other videos from experts on the Deutschland ticket, so I'll try to link some of that information below. But the good thing is that for your regional trains, you can kind of get to other areas, and that is part of the train fare. So just to give you an example, we were the last stop on the S-Bahn from Stuttgart on the line that we were on. And so for a one-day ticket where we could go in and out of the city, that would have cost us just shy of €12 for the day. So if you start thinking about, well, if I take just the S-Bahn 4 or 5 times in the month, then that's worth it. And it was definitely worth it to us. You add in a regional train fare, which could be, 36, €34, then that definitely makes a lot of sense. So we felt like it was worth the money. But one thing to note is that the Deutschland ticket is a subscription base. It's really designed for local commuters, right? So they can get in and out for a fairly reasonable rate, and the subscription starts on the first of the month and expires at the end of the month. Why is this important? This is important based on when you're visiting, right? So we happened to arrive right in the middle of the month. I'm going to say we arrived on the 12th of June, and so that meant that our subscription was €49 each, would only be good until the end of June, because again, it starts on the first of the month and it expires, or rather it auto renews at the end of the month. So what we ended up doing was committing to the Deutschland ticket for that subscription period through the end of June. We immediately canceled, so we could still ride through the end of the month, but we didn't want it to auto-renew. We wanted to see how much we really used it and if it would be worthwhile for us to continue into the month of July. We were only there in July for 10 days. And so we did use it quite a bit. Like I said, you can use it for the S-Bahn, for the U-Bahn, for the regional trains, for the buses. And in June, we ended up using it for all of those things. So definitely worthwhile. When we assessed the remainder of our time there in July, we decided to do it again. So we paid another €49 each. We took a day trip somewhere on one of the regional trains, so I think that was €34 on its own, plus we went in and out of Stuttgart several times. We rode the S-Bahn to a few different places, so we definitely got our money's worth. But just if you're considering going to Germany, if you're going to be there for any period of time and you're looking at that as an option, make sure you understand that it is a subscription ticket. It starts on the first of the month and it will auto-renew. So definitely good to know. Grocery shopping. We actually spent quite a lot of money on groceries since we were there for a whole month. One of, quite frankly, our favorite things to do is to pop into the shop almost every day, I would say. And in a lot of ways, the main grocery store that was closest to our accommodation was Edeka. And I would say it's really similar to most US or UK based grocery stores. So nothing too complicated or funky, quite large, has everything you need. I'm somebody who likes to eat primarily plant-based, and I found that there were more than enough options for someone like me. There's Jimmy. He says he's not quite ready to show up on a video yet, but I'll get him one of these days. Anyway, so the grocery stores were really well stocked. Jimmy got a lot of schnitzel from the local deli, even outside of the grocery store. On some days in Balderstadt, there was a man that had a van that had rotisserie chickens going, or the what does he really like? The pork knuckles roasting. So that was good. A few little things that caught me off guard. One is in Germany, like a lot of places in Europe, you have to weigh your produce before you get to the register. You have to weigh it. It prints off a sticker that they can scan, and you have to do that before checkout. And it catches me off every single time. I've run into this in Italy, in Germany in the past. Where else? Oh, Tenerife last year made that same mistake, and you get up and you're ready to check out, and they're like, no, what is this? Luckily, we went late on the first night, and there wasn't a queue behind us, so the young man was really nice. He got up, he did a quick scan for us, and came back, and that was our cue to always remember to weigh and tag your produce when you're in Germany. Not all the markets are like it, but this one was like that. They also have Lidl and Aldi's. It's the home of Lidl and Aldi's, right? So for those of you that might be in the US or the UK that are really familiar with those brands, that's a great option as well. I tend to prefer it, not only because of the cost, but because you don't have the stress of having to remember to weigh your produce, right? It all comes pre-packaged and tagged. So we definitely spent a lot of time there, and you just kind of get on, right? You'll get used to it. I did get trapped that first night also in Edeka, where they had kind of a barrier, and it said scan and go on the floor, scan and go. And I'm like, well, scan what? You have to scan your receipt. There's a barcode, and you scan your receipt so that it opens the barrier and lets you out. We were kind of trying to force ourselves through a little bit, and a young girl behind us ended up showing us what to do. The funny thing is, I was very embarrassed by that, right? Like, I can't figure out how to get out of the grocery store. I feel so dumb, and you're not dumb. It's just, it's culturally different. It's something that you're not used to at home. Somebody teaches you, and 3 weeks later, we were in another Edeka in Stuttgart, and another woman couldn't figure out how to get out of the grocery store. So I got to teach her, right? And she'll probably go on to teach somebody else. So if you ever find yourself traveling and feeling foolish or stupid, it's not you, okay? You're not dumb. You're just trying something new for the first time. And if in doubt, just look around and you'll figure it out, right? There are nice people that will help you. Other than that, our day-to-day life was pretty simple. I cleaned the flat just like I would clean my house. I would do the dishes and the cooking and doing the laundry. Laundry is a little bit different over here. We get very accustomed to our tumble dryers in the US, so there it's much more common not to have a tumble dryer at all, and instead just put your clothes on the dry rack, so that's not a problem. And really just taking some day trips, not planning out too much, soaking in all that our town had to offer, taking walks when I felt like it, and not feeling like I have to be back somewhere in 15 minutes for another call was really nice. So all in all, it was a good month for me to just be and relax and learn how to be a bit more present in life. Now, just because that first month was about slowing down and resting and relaxing doesn't mean that we didn't do anything, or that I didn't do anything for the whole month. So we did get out and try to explore a little bit more of Germany. We have been there in the past. So I've been to Hamburg, been to Cologne, been to Dusseldorf and Aachen. We've been to Berlin, we've been to Nuremberg and Munich in the past. And so Germany isn't exactly a novelty, but this was our first time in Stuttgart, in that general area. So I wanted to focus a little bit more on that. So let's talk a little bit about a few places that we did go and explore. The first place that I want to talk about is Esslingen. So Esslingen is also outside of Stuttgart. If we were, let's say, west or southwest of the city, this would be more east or southeast. It was very easy to get there by going into Stuttgart on the S6 line and then transferring over to either another S-Bahn line or some of the regional trains stop there on their way to other destinations as well. So we ended up going there, I think on a Sunday, and I had no plans other than to walk around the town and see what it had to offer. And we get there and it's absolutely mobbed. What I didn't know or account for was that there was a big race that morning and there was an even bigger festival that was on. So that was actually pretty cool, pretty serendipitous. This festival was kind of like a world culture or a world food festival that was put on after the race. And so they had all sorts of food stalls representing countries from all over, right? So we stopped and had some Greek food first at one of the kiosks. There was a blues tent there. You know, that's something you tend to associate with the US. And as I got closer and we stopped to listen for a little while, it was German blues, which was something I didn't even know that was a thing, but it was kind of cool to hear something, a bit more from where you're based and hear it in a different language. So kudos to the German blues players. But all in all, it was very cool just to kind of snake through the town. In some ways, I think it would have been nice for us to go back and see it without all of the stalls. There was dance stages happening, there was lots of people, so it added a lot of fun and festivities, but also I maybe didn't get to see as much of the city, which is fine. Maybe we'll go back one day. There is a very cool, I guess it's a castle. Is it a castle? It's up on the hill, so you can walk up. Has a beautiful overlook. There's all sorts of, I want to say it's winery, but it's not an orchard. The place where you grow the grapes. What is that called? Somebody will point it out for me. But all sorts of grapes planted on the hillside. I can't believe I'm completely blanking on what you would call that right now. It's not important. It looks really beautiful. So it was a nice walk up to the top of town. Nice views all over, and you can really look down and kind of see all the festivities below. From there, we decided to walk along the river, which was equally as nice. Definitely a bit more quiet down there and just really scenic. It was nice because you could see people just enjoying their Sundays, right? Sitting with their friends, maybe having a beer, playing cards, people rowing down the river. So all in all, we had a really good feeling about Esslingen. It's a bit bigger than Balderstadt, and I think if I had to do it again, maybe I would have based myself in a place like that just because it would have been a little bit bigger. It was about 20 minutes closer to Stuttgart, and maybe it would have felt like there was a little bit more to do. So you could possibly add Esslingen to your list of places to visit. We also took a regional train one weekend down to Tübingen. And again, I never have any big agendas for when I go to these places. I just want to kind of walk around and experience it and probably eat something really nice. So we showed up to Tübingen on a Saturday, I want to say, and there was some music festival going. So that was kind of funny because there's 90s rap music playing almost instantly when we got off of the train, just due to the proximity of the concert. But as we got closer to the town center and again to the river, it just has beautiful, the half wooden houses, very vibrant, very colorful. The river had quite a few gondola rides, which I wouldn't have expected. That's probably a very touristy thing to do, but an equally very scenic way to see the surroundings, so that might be something that you check out. We walked up through the university. It is known as University Town. I think it would be really beautiful to do a semester abroad there or something. If you've ever been to that university, let me know. Let me know if you liked it. It looks just so picturesque. But we just snaked our way through the university and then back down along the riverside. It was very hot that day. By very hot, I mean in the 90s. And Germany 90s is very different than an Arizona 90s, right? So, I think some people say, well, you're from Arizona, or you've lived in Arizona for 10 years. How can you find this hot? But it is humid. And I would say, honestly, Germany had such weird weather while we were there, but some very hot and humid days where you're just kind of dripping, and it kind of zaps the energy out of you a little bit. So, again, Tübingen, I would return to. Maybe in the fall, I think would be a nice time to see it, or even the springtime, but still really enjoyed our time there and recommend it. We did also both take 2 trips, side trips kind of without each other. So Jimmy went to Cologne on his own. That was for the second Scotland game, was based in Cologne. It's a city, it's probably his favorite city in Germany, for no other reason than he really likes the Kolsch beer. So when we were planning the trip, he had even said, like, hey, I'd like to do a few days with my mates in Cologne. Yeah, great, no problem. So I think that probably ended up being his favorite time in Germany. You're just there, you're at the game, you're with your mates, you're drinking your favorite beer in one of your favorite cities in Germany. So I know that he really enjoyed that. I ended up being really sick during that time anyway, so it worked out well that I could just kind of rest and recover. But the following week, I got to go up north and visit a good friend of mine, Steffi. So I met Steffi in high school. She was a German exchange student that came to Ohio, where I'm from. She came to Ohio to do a whole year of school. I think it was a whole year, or like 8 months anyways. Steffi and I, we became good friends. She even dated my brother when we were in high school, so we would go to all the dances together, and we've stayed in contact over the years. So she's come back to the US quite a bit. We always tried to make an effort to see her, and I've been to Germany a couple times as well. So on this trip, I really wanted to get up north and see her and see her family, and that was amazing. So I went up to Lüneburg. I'm probably saying that wrong. Lüneburg. I try to say it like the Germans, but it's outside of the Hamburg area, and what a lovely town. I think it was just probably my favorite part of the trip. One, because I got to be with my friend, and I got to catch up, and I got to really see her life and see her house and hang out with her kids. And even though we didn't speak the same language, like, we found a way to communicate and laugh and play, and that was so fun. And she took me on a tour through Lüneburg, where she grew up, where she went to school, and where she now teaches. And it was just one of those kind of surreal moments that 20 plus years ago I met her in Ohio, and now the tables have kind of turned, and I even got a chance to go into her school. It was their summer holiday, but she wanted to pick up the schedule, so it was very cool that I now got to see where she grew up, see where she ran around, and actually walk through the halls of where she now teaches as an English teacher. So highly recommend Lüneburg to add to your travel itinerary if you are heading up north. Okay, so wrapping this up, wrapping up our first month at Adventure Up, what are some things that I would reflect on, or some things I've learned? I would say the first thing for me, coming from a career break perspective, really just try to give yourself that first month to just be, and to try to untangle your work self from who you are. Just give yourself that space to rest, to relax, if at all possible, right? You might want to jump into a project, you might have a family to care for, you might have something else you need to do, but if you have the time, I really recommend just giving yourself a little bit of space in the beginning, and that's okay. I think it'll set you up for success moving forward. The second thing I learned is that And Jimmy and I, we have traveled a lot. We've been together for 10 years. We've traveled together and we've traveled apart. And I think it was really good that we each had some time where we were kind of going off and doing our own thing, right? So Jimmy went to Cologne, and that was probably his favorite part of the trip because it's one of his favorite places. I went up north to see my friend. That was very just fueling for me, being able to connect with a longtime friend and just get to be a little part of her day-to-day life for a few days was really priceless to me. And so I think one thing I learned is that it's okay to do things apart, especially things that are going to fulfill you and fuel you. You'll want to come back and share that with your partner. So don't feel like you always have to do everything together, right? And that might just be us. Some people love being together 24/7. We do too for the most part, but I think that there's something to be said about being your own person and being able to stand on your own and do what you love and then come back and continue to do things you love together. And then I guess the third thing I would say is I really loved our time in Germany, our time being there for the Euros. That was something I have never personally experienced. Coming from the US, we don't quite have that football culture, that soccer culture. I think they're getting there, but honestly, it's a whole different environment, and I think it really just elevated our Germany experience. You got to meet Germany fans who were pumped and they were very welcoming, especially the Scottish fans, which is who I was with most of the time. The Scots are they're a lot of fun, right? I think it was almost unanimous that the Germans really loved hosting and loved having the Scots there. So I'm really glad that I got to be part of some of those pre-game festivities and part of the atmosphere, and even just, riding the trains. You never know who you're going to be riding with. I was in a whole car of Romanians one day when they were on their way. The host cities all did a really nice job, including Stuttgart, which is where we were based. So having that kind of football space, that fan zone really central to the city just added a lot. So I have absolutely no regrets about our month in Germany, our time there for the Euros. I wish it would have gone better for Scotland, but hey ho, that's the way it goes. And up next, we are on to Scotland, so we'll keep you all posted. Thanks!